Hey everybody, how goes it? Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me. As you can see, I'm going through a move right now. Forgive the bizarre background, but that's really not what's important. And if you're on the podcast, and I'll tell you the background looks amazing. Okay, if you only hear the audio of this, then just know the background of this video is the cliffs of a Hawaiian island somewhere. That's where I am right now. If you're watching the video, however, I don't think you're going to fall for that. So this is the Friday live stream where I show the mainstream media and we go through it together. We watch the horror show together every Friday. Also, if you're at leecamp.net, then you will you'll be able to ask questions. And I'll be answering those at the end. Hello, Holly. Hello, everybody else who's joining me. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to start off with a clip from Fox News. This is a very short clip, and then we'll get into some longer stuff from CNN. But for those of you who aren't regulars to my Friday live stream, I specifically am not choosing the craziest clips from CNN or Fox News or whatever, because anyone can do that. Anyone can go, look at this 2-minute thing where this fucking idiot said his fucking idiot shit. Sorry for the bad language. Fucking moron. Is more appropriate. But anybody can find those clips and show them to people. I like to show that just turning it on at any moment, it is garbage. And no one should be watching these channels. And yet they are where most of Americans are getting their news, these cable news channels. And so let's do that right now. Again, we're starting with Fox News. But for those of you who love Fox News, first of all, you need to reach into your ear canal with a pair of pliers and pull out the paperclip that you have jammed deep in there. Okay, get it out. It's not helping things. So that's step one. Step two, if you love Fox News, don't worry. I have CNN coming up soon. So just untwist your panties, and I mean both male and female panties. Don't get on me for acting like that's a sexist joke. All right, so this is Fox News, and I swear to God, this is just me. This is how stupid Fox News is at all times. This is just me turning it on and hitting record an hour ago. An hour ago, this is what it is, okay? Yes, that's Magic Johnson speaking.
This table all the way around here to show them that I got it going on. No, don't get caught in that, because it's only going to bleed your business and it's going to take your business down. So make sure, hey, if I build enough stores, I can support that lifestyle and still run a successful business. Very important.
Now, I know you may be thinking, hold on, I don't know the context of this. Why are we watching Magic Johnson speak at some sort of expo about how to run a business? Clearly, there is something very important going on there. Maybe there was a mass shooter there earlier in the day. Maybe there's a flood going on outside. Clearly, I have missed the context. And here's the thing. No, you haven't. That there is no context. Fox News, and I'm sorry I hit record about 3 seconds too late, but they literally just go, now we're going to Magic Johnson, who is speaking right now in Texas. And they literally play the clip you just heard some of. I'll play a little more in a minute because you clearly got to get more of this. They literally just go, let's go to Magic Johnson speaking in Texas. There was no, I swear to you, there was no other information given. Fox News literally thinks it's somehow news to show a basketball player. Let's not forget that part. Even if this was a business channel, even if Fox News was not a news channel and it was just a how to build your business channel, this is a fucking basketball player. Let's listen to what a basketball player has to say about how to build a business. This is the nonsense on top of nonsense, on top of utter nonsense, on top of bullshit, on top of propaganda, on top of distraction. This is a pyramid of garbage. And that's what Fox News shows you. And I just want to stress that it's not just that this is meaningless. There's no reason that, A, you should be spending your day listening to people tell you how to build a business, quote unquote, because really in the capitalist system, it's about how to extract money from others. And I get that a lot of people want to do that, which is really just a sad statement on our fucking society to begin with. So there's that factor. But even if you wanted to learn those things, why are you listening to a basketball player talk about them? But even if you were like, well, it's a basketball player who started a bunch of businesses, and that's why I want to listen to him. Even if you said all of that, you ignored everything I just proposed before I got to this next sentence. Still, it's a distraction. It's a distraction so that if you are a Fox News viewer and you turn it on to get the news, you are not learning the real news about what's going on in the world. You are not learning about how aggressively most Americans are being exploited right now. You are not learning about the environmental destruction that is going on. You are not learning about what we could all be doing, cooperating, working together to make this a better world. All of that is wiped off the page so that you can hear Magic Johnson go at a business expo go, here's how to sell some napkins. And I know he doesn't have a Southern accent, but it just comes out of me sometimes. All right, let's hear some more Magic Johnson. In case you were thinking, well, that probably wasn't the important part that Lee just played for us, and we're about to get to the important part. Here is the important part.
And then I invested in things that's not sexy, you don't think about. Sodexo Magic, my food service facilities management company. I've always wanted a contract from Disney, right? So I go to a conference like this. All the minorities who want a contract in Disney come to this big conference. So I'm sitting there, and the man said, when I need 100 million napkins, you can't piecemeal it. We need 100 million napkins. I said, oh, shoot, we're not ready. No, you got to know if you get this contract and you can't deliver 100 million napkins, not only your business go down, but your reputation. Your brand is over.
Now, should I keep lobotomizing you with more of this meaningless speech? Should I keep playing this to show you how utterly horrific our mainstream media is? You got Magic Johnson at a business expo in Texas talking about how he didn't have enough goddamn napkins. He was not ready to sell millions of napkins. I mean, this is your mainstream media. This is it. And for all of those people out there, and some of them are actually left-wing who go, well, Fox News allows on a lot of voices that are not allowed on the other channels. It's like, yeah, at times they do. At times there's a little interview by Tucker Carlson. I know he's been fired, but there's a little interview here or a little interview there. It's like, yeah, you're ignoring the 24/7 minus 10 minutes that is utter garbage. You're acting like that little 10-minute segment where they allowed someone who's truly anti-war or truly pro-Assange or truly understands the horror show that is U.S. sanctions around the world. They allowed that on their airwaves, and you're making that out to be the depiction of all of Fox News. No, Fox News is this. Fox News is nothing. It is nothing. It is basically the level of lobotomization that is like chugging a fifth of vodka. You know, and I have no problem with chugging. If you want to chug some vodka, you fucking do it. You live it up. You have fun. But don't tell me you did that to learn about what's going on in the world. Okay? That's all I ask. Just, I've never had someone in front of me chugging a handle of vodka and then pause in the middle and go, this is so I know what's going on in our world, and then go back to chugging and then hurl everywhere and go, now I'm informed. It's an equivalent level of lobotomization, except people act like Fox News informs them. And unless you're trying to figure out how to sell napkins to fucking Disney World, you're not learning anything from Fox News. And that's not even getting into like the deep levels of why is it that Magic Johnson, who is incredibly rich, feels the need to continue to give speeches like this that he's probably getting paid to give so that he can collect another $100,000 so that he can build another business. It's all about money. And that's the thing. I don't, in our system, we don't begrudge someone like Magic Johnson starting business after business because it is the mud in which we live. It is. I'm not saying he personally has done anything wrong. It is the mud in which we live. We are up to our eyeballs in this shit, and we think it's perfectly normal for someone who initially was a great basketball player to now devote every minute of their lives to getting more money. Do you think he's selling the napkins to Disney because he just loves napkins, or he just loves Disney? And he wants to make sure Disney employees have a way to wipe their mouths appropriately. And he's seen a real problem in this world with the way they've been wiping their mouths. And he's like, I can't see these Disney employees suffering with subpar napkins any longer. As God is my witness, they will wipe with appropriate level napkinry, which is not a word. No. Hey, all of it comes down to just wanting money, to just and again, I'm not saying that in our system right now, it's not like every person that wants some money is a horrible human. They're doing that because we're in a system that means that you fucking can't get by unless you have some amount of money, but often a large amount of money in order to do things like have a house and have a roof over your head and have food and things like that. So we live in a garbage system, and then it vomits up media, quote unquote, like this. This is media. This is what passes for media. So whenever anyone mentions our mainstream media, I want you to remember it's a lobotomy. It's nonsense. And again, I didn't search for the craziest clip. I hit record on Fox News. Okay, let's move on now to CNN because, I don't want to act like it is just Fox News. Now, CNN, luckily, at the moment I hit record, was not playing something as stupid as that. Well, actually, I'm going to play a minute of. This is actually just a quick minute of MSNBC. Oh, well, hold on. No, I don't want to play that. It's all. I don't know. It's all debt limit stuff. Oh, okay. Here's a good one. So again, I just recorded a random 20 minutes of MSNBC as well. I know I said I'd get CNN, which I hope to get to, but here's a random, we're not going to play the whole 20 minutes, but I just recorded a random 20 minutes of MSNBC today. And by the way, anyone who's watching this is up in multiple platforms, right? Please hit subscribe. Please hit like. Please leave a comment. All those things help with me as the most censored comedian in America. But if you're at leecamp.net, my locals page, if you're there, I will be answering questions exclusively from there for the last 15 minutes of this live stream. Questions, comments, topics, whatever it is you want to talk about. So please do. If you're watching at leecamp.net, which is my locals page, please do leave comments and questions, and I will get to as many as I can in the last 15 minutes here. Thank you for being a member. It really means a lot. But all right, so here's MSNBC. First of all, they start on a report about Dianne Feinstein, who, as many of you know now, is suffering mentally aggressively. She has some serious illness problems. And that one, I'm not here to just mock anyone who has serious illness. But the thing is, she's been facing dementia and all kinds of problems for years now. And the people around her, and obviously her to the point they can, have kept her in Congress, have worked very hard to keep her in the decision body of our country as she was completely, unfortunately, losing her mind. Okay. And I mean that in a scientific sense. I don't mean that in a the fucking Trump losing his mind, which he is, but that's more of like an idiom. I mean, in a scientific sense, she was losing her mind, and she and the people around her did everything they could to make sure she remained in Congress. And so finally, and during all that time, when other people, there were plenty of people covering the fact that Dianne Feinstein was not doing well, but your mainstream media didn't cover it until like last week. They suddenly realized it. But I actually want to get to the story after this, but I'll just click play.
Replace her and when and how that primary all shakes out. A lot of factors here, all worth being watched over the next couple of months, along with, of course, the senator's health. Chris?
Garrett Haake, thank you for that. Now to that big accounting error at the Pentagon that could actually be good news for Ukraine. NBC's Courtney Kube joins.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say, you hear big accounting error at the Pentagon, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to cover it. MSNBC is going to cover the $21 trillion with a T. 21 with trillion with that with T, like tits, like traumatic. $21 trillion financial discrepancy at the Pentagon over 20 years. And actually, it's larger than that. Now, if you add recent numbers, it's up to 35 trillion of unaccountable financial adjustments in the Pentagon's books. And oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to cover it. This is incredible. Finally, mainstream media. Oh my God, they're doing it. It's happening. It's all happening. And here's what the story actually is.
Just from the Pentagon with the latest. What can you tell us about this, Courtney?
Yeah, we're talking about upwards of $3 billion here, Chris. So essentially what happened is this is part of the president.
3 billion with a B, not T as in tits, B as in boobs, as in balls, as in bubbly, as in holy balloons. So there are $21 trillion, and it's actually up to more like 35 trillion now, of unaccounted for financial adjustments in the Pentagon's books. It's been covered. Yes, it's been covered more by me than maybe anyone else, which says how sad our media is. But it's also there's been a couple of articles in Forbes. There's been a couple of articles in The Nation. So it's not like it's gone unaccounted for. Uncovered at all. It's just only gotten a little bit, never mentioned on mainstream media, never keep it nice and quiet, hush, hush on all that. And here's MSNBC going, we have discovered a fraud, a problem, an error at the Pentagon for $3 billion with a B dollars. A drop in the bucket. This is a classic example of what they call a limited hangout, where the government or the Pentagon or the CIA or whatever fesses up to something, or the media reveals something. But what they're revealing is such a tiny, tiny mote of a modicum of what the reality is. And people see that tiny, tiny speck and they go, that's it. That's the whole problem. That's it. That tiny speck right there. And it's in a mountain of fraud or corruption or bullshit. And yet people go, look at that little speck right there. So right now they're pointing at a $3 billion speck in a $21 trillion fraud. Thank you, MSNBC. Doing well. Actually, that's kind of what, let's see how quickly I can type this in. That means if they're telling us about $3 billion and 21 trillion, that means they're telling us about 0.0143% of the problem. 0.014% of the problem. Which I would say if you were to sit down and really calculate it, is about the percent of real news you could get from MSNBC. I think that's pretty accurate. About 0.014% of the actual news going on in our world is covered by these clowns. So thank you, MSNBC, for revealing 0.014% of the problem.
Presidential Drawdown Authority process, the PDA, that we've been hearing about for more than a year now. These are the weapons and equipment that the U.S. takes from military stockpiles and provides to Ukraine. We usually hear about a new PDA every 2 or 3 weeks with more equipment, and associated with it, they'll give us a rough idea of how much that package costs. Well, what we have learned is that during some sort of an accounting process where they were looking back and at these past Presidential Drawdown Authority packages, they realized that in some cases they were taking the cost of the equipment as it would be today, as opposed to, in many cases, this equipment is 20 years old or even older, as opposed to what the military paid for it at the time. So when they've adjusted the total amounts back to the actual cost of the equipment that they're providing instead of the inflated cost for today, they found that there's this $3 billion difference, which they're now saying, according to the Pentagon, will now be used for future Presidential Drawdown Authority packages, essentially giving them an additional $3 billion. But what I have to point out here, Chris, is...
So, of course, there's the fact that they're celebrating the fact that more money, more billions of dollars can be sent to Ukraine, to neo-Nazis fighting on the borders of Ukraine. And for those of you who need to hear it again, I am opposed to war. I want peace in this world. So I'm opposed to the Russian invasion, but I'm also opposed to the U.S. creating a proxy war in this world. So I am adamantly opposed to sending more weapons to neo-Nazis in Ukraine, sending more money to neo-Nazis in Ukraine. But here they are reporting this, it's really a fraud, although they act like it's an accident. Like the Pentagon, no one at the Pentagon thought to account the amount, the price of the weapons was back when they were bought 20 years ago. It didn't occur to a fucking soul at the Pentagon. What are they doing there? They just running around with paper bags over their heads, bumping into walls. No one thought to account for that. But aside from that, this is a tiny fraction of the problem. It is a nothing 0.014% of what the truth is at the Pentagon. But again, MSNBC, their job is to make you think that this is it. This is all. This is what this is. We've sussed out. We're covering a mistake at the Pentagon, and oh, what a big mistake it is. And they limited hangout. It is nothing of the actual fraud and corruption that goes on in the Pentagon. And this is also, there's a lot of this that's by their own admission. A lot of the missing assets at the Pentagon have been admitted by the Pentagon. I know I'm called crazy for bringing all this stuff up. A lot of it is admitted. The Pentagon in the last audit, they failed 5 audits in a row, right? These are the first times they've ever been audited. And they failed 5 in a row. So they've never legitimately successfully been audited. They failed 5 in a row. And the latest one, which ended in November, they found that they couldn't account for over half of their assets, meaning the Pentagon, the spokesperson for the Pentagon walked out and said, I don't fucking know. I don't, over 50% of everything they have, they don't know where it is. They can't account for over 50% of their assets. And their assets include everything, the helicopters, jets, buildings, fucking buildings. How do you lose a goddamn building? David Copperfield doesn't even lose buildings, and he makes them disappear, okay? Unbelievable, the amount of corruption, fraud. And it's almost, at that point, when you're missing half your assets, you're almost better off just saying you did it on purpose. You're better off being called corrupt than being said, than saying that you are that aggressively dumb. It's better for you to walk out there and go, look, we are corrupt up to here. We have to wear water wings, inflatable armbands just to be able to stay afloat above our own bullshit corruption. They are better off doing that than walking out and saying, well, no, we're half of our stuff went. Like, I mean, I'd rather have the first group, the people saying, yeah, we are corrupt. Insanely corrupt. This is a fraud. Unbelievable amount of fraud. You're better off saying, I'd rather have that. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comment thread which you'd rather have: immense corruption or immense idiocy. Now, I'm not saying it can't be both. I'm sure it's a sprinkle here, a sprinkle there. But I'm sure it's a sprinkling of each. But which is more? And which would you rather have? The largest mass murder or organized mass murder machine in the world, would you rather have it run, staffed, and controlled by idiots or corrupt villains? It's a tough call. It's a tough call. I don't know on that one.
Even though there is this additional money that they will use for future PDAs for equipment for Ukraine, it doesn't change the fact that much of the equipment and the weapons that are being taken out of U.S. military stockpiles still do have to be replaced. And the cost still is the inflated amount that the U.S. would be paying for them today. So that hasn't changed. It's just the way that they're accounting for how much equipment they're actually giving to Ukraine. It's kind of confusing.
Thank you so much. As the war in Ukraine tops the G.
Also, even in this limited hangout where they go, look how much we're revealing to you the counting error at the Pentagon. Look at us doing legit news here. Even in that moment, let's say we took them at face value and we said, oh my God, that's it. That's all the corruption, $3 billion. That's all the accounting error. Oh my God, thank goodness they're covering this. Thank goodness they revealed it. Even if we took it all at face value. Why are they smiling and laughing? Why shouldn't you be furious? Shouldn't you be yelling as much as I am? I look, and I know there are those of you that watch my shows, my live stream, whatever, and you're like, I like some of it, but why is he yelling so much? Look at what's going on in this world. And I do not understand why I'm one of the only ones yelling. I don't get it. And there's plenty of you, I think, watching who are this loud in your heads, right? But why is our mainstream media, even if you wanted to believe that they were doing a legit job, why are they just, she literally just goes, thank you for bringing us that. Okay, moving on. $3 billion missing at the Pentagon while people in America don't have health care and they're getting denied. Their babies are getting denied fucking intravenous drugs as in their first days of life. They're getting kicked out of incubators because their parents didn't have the proper insurance. But there's $3 billion that's misaccounted for at the Pentagon. Isn't that cute? Okay, let's move on. 64% of Americans have said in the past year that they have trouble paying for basic necessities. But, it's $3 billion that misaccounted for at the Pentagon. That's funny. Let's move on. It's like you reveal yourself as frauds when you say, hey, this is important. You should care about it. You should be upset about it. And now I'm going to smile and move on to the next story about the rain. I mean, okay. I want to get to CNN here. And there were several, I don't know how many we'll have time to get to, but there were several things that CNN covered when I hit record. Sorry. So they start off with a story. By the way, hit subscribe, hit thumbs up. Please let people know, share this. I do these every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, although Fridays are special. Today is special in a way because this is the day I call Media Breakdown, where we just play the media, play the mainstream media, and we just show what garbage it is. So next up is CNN. And also the last 15 minutes of Friday, I answer questions at leecamp.net. If you're not a member there, you should become a member there. And you get actually, I can put the little banner thing up on the screen, which I forgot to do. There we go. You get my new ebook, Dangerous Ideas. So I hope you will do that. It's fresh out of the box. My brand new book, and everyone who has glimpsed it adores it, loves it. It's got a 5.5-star rating on a 5-star scale in my head. So can't beat that.
What we tell even as we go through the next few days. This was a look at.
I wanted to tell you before I hit click play on that what she's talking about, which she'll start revealing, is there are massive fires in Canada, and the smoke is wafting down to the United States and making it hard to do things like breathe and see. And here's part I agree. I agree this is an important story. What I disagree on is how can you cover this story and never say the words climate change or a climate crisis? Literally, the country above us is on fire, and so it's so thoroughly on fire that the smoke means you can't see a foot in front of your face, that is wafted down. The flames of Canada on fire are wafting down to the United States, and that's what their report is on. And I don't believe we ever hear the words climate crisis.
Paul, Minnesota, what should be the skyline in the background is very difficult to see due to that smoke and that haze in the sky. It's not just Minneapolis. Again, we're starting to see some improvement here in the upper Midwest as a lot of that smoke begins to shift farther south. So places like Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, St. Louis starting to see more of their air quality alerts tick up. A lot of this is also the cold front that begins to spread. It's going to take a lot of that smoke and push it farther south and east as we head into the weekend.
Yeah, this is a type of air where
the climate crisis has gotten so bad that part of your weather report is now whether you can breathe outside. Part of your weather report is that it is so smoky that you can't see or breathe and you should stay inside because the world is on fire. And these clowns, these fucking unevolved, sad sacks of flesh that are useless, they come to you and they present a weather report about how you can't breathe outside from the flames, but they don't say the words climate crisis. They don't say the words climate change. If you're lucky, they might say, hey, we're here with a climate report or something. And even if they did throw in, well, this is clearly connected to climate change, even if they throw in that one sentence, we're way past one sentence bad, okay, on these reports. Even if, because I missed the first minute of this. So even if in the first minute of this, she says, well, related to climate change, even if that's how she started it, we are way past one sentence bad. We are into every goddamn sentence should involve yelling about mass extinction. We are in the 6th mass extinction of plants and animals on this planet, and it's due to human causes. And we sit here acting like, well, it's going to be a rough day out there. It's going to be a little hot and also tough to breathe. So, when you're out there, don't be out there. When you're outside, make sure you don't stay outside. All right, back to you, Ted. That's how bad it is. And I don't know who this, I guess, meteorologist is. I haven't seen her before, but the one, was it Chad Myers, who they had on CNN for years and years, for like 20 years or something, was their meteorologist. They showed his reports, daily, almost hourly. I don't know how often he was on, but a lot. And he was a full-on climate denier. Like, he'd done interviews saying that it didn't exist, or that, climate just changes naturally. That's what it does. Yeah, it changes naturally over 1 billion years, not over 10, you fucking asshole. And so they had a full-on climate denier, paid God knows how many dollars a year to come on and tell you the weather and never say the words climate change. That's what CNN had. And I don't know if he's still at CNN, but clearly they have someone else at least part-time. But whether he left 2 years ago or not, I don't really care. It shows what trash these networks are. And this is the so-called evolved network, right? Compared to Fox News. If you ask liberal America, CNN's where to get your news. Oh, my God.
where you're thinking about what kind of activity you should not be doing as you have that hanging out. All right, Allison, thank you for that. Boris?
The best. This is the type of activity, type of time you should be thinking about activity you should not be doing. Maybe not filling the world with fossil fuels. Maybe not extracting more fossil fuels. Maybe not the fracking across America. Maybe not filling the globe with methane. Maybe not blowing up Nord Stream pipelines that released the largest methane release in history. And methane is many times as harmful to the climate crisis, contributing to the climate crisis as carbon dioxide. Anyway, as you can see, the next story, which we'll go on to from CNN, was, is New York City sinking? Which I actually think is a kind of an interesting story. But they, again, here's the thing. They don't mention the words climate crisis. Although they do, I think in it, we're going to see in a second, I think in it they do say this is our climate reporter. So they do talk about sea level rise without saying climate crisis. But what they're actually talking about in the article I read about is New York City sinking is that New York is literally moving downward by several millimeters a year due to the weight of its buildings, because there's trillions of pounds of buildings on New York City. Now, I'm fine with covering this story as long as you also say that combined with sea level rise due to climate crisis is really fucking scary, as long as you combine the two, which they essentially fail to do.
No wonder the penthouse suite is more expensive. A new geological study says that New York City is sinking closer to sea level, partially due to the weight of its estimated 1 million buildings, which in total weigh about 1.7 trillion pounds. Now, the Army Corps of Engineers is working on ways to prevent the city from being submerged during future natural disasters. Let's bring in CNN chief climate correspondent Bill Weir. Bill, New York City sinking sounds apocalyptic.
Well, it doesn't have to be, Boris. It doesn't have to be. With planning and wisdom, and knowledge is power. But this is a really fascinating study of one leading in the geological survey who thought.
So I'm going to stop it there for a couple of reasons. One is because they're idiots. But beyond that, it actually was not my internet that was crapping out. It was the reporter's connection that was crapping out. So in a minute. So they let him continue to go on talking like for the next several minutes before they finally cut him off and go, oh, it looks like we lost that connection. So it's not worth showing you. But I will say that is the appropriate way to watch CNN. CNN should be shown to you in breaking up soundbite audio in such a way that you can't understand any of it, because you are a better human being if you don't actually understand the sentences coming out of the face holes of those people. So I support that. I support that this will happen. Okay, so but the other reason this is stupid is that what he did just say is he said, well, it doesn't have to be apocalyptic with the proper planning, with the proper work, with the proper technology, or whatever, however he phrased it. Yeah, you mean dealing with climate crisis. That is what, like that is what, but they're not going to. Now, do you see what he did? Not only did his video short out, he just shorted me out. I'm now stuck going, we should use that technology and the work and the smarts and the science and all of those things that we're good at, that we're moving forward, that human beings are evolving and moving forward and we're progressing. All of those things to collect globally, and we should work to solve climate crisis, to solve the plan for it, etc. Instead, they're not even saying the words. Say the fucking words. Say the C word. You asshole. Climate crisis. But no, instead they call him the climate reporter. Look, chief climate correspondent. And here he is talking about New York sinking. And yet, as much of the report that I could see that they were willing to show here, or before his internet craps out, is they never say the term climate crisis. They just call him the climate reporter. Here's a climate reporter who doesn't say the word climate. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, because his connection cuts out, I'm going to, I know it looks like he's still speaking, but it's all jumbled. All right, so let's get to something else. Let's see. What was this story?
Year, you may remember the Biden administration pointed the finger at the airlines for the widespread delays and cancellations. But while airlines were largely to blame, new CNN reporting found that a lack of controllers at one key FAA facility in Florida was behind nearly 5,000 of those delays. And internal emails show the FAA knew that it was responsible for some of the problems. CNN aviation correspondent Pete Puntine joins us with his reporting. So,
you know, this is an okay report. It doesn't make me as angry as many of the others. But in this report, about these flight controllers, about specifically one area or place of flight controllers where they were failing and falling behind and causing all these delays. At no point in this report will they talk about how we have too many planes in the air, how we climate crisis, fossil fuels. Maybe we shouldn't have millions of planes circling the globe every minute. There's a lot. They're never going to say any of that, right? None of that would ever be in this report. Instead, they have pinned the flight problems on one group of workers who are they're understaffed, and of course they'll use the word understaffed. This area, this organization, this city, this group of flight controllers is understaffed. But they won't talk about how, they're underpaid. If you paid them more, maybe you'd get more flight controllers. If you were willing to pay more to acquire more flight controllers, if you were willing to pay more to just have more people on staff, if you're willing to pay more for people to be able to do more, they're not going to talk about any of that. They're not going to talk about how terrible the situation is that workers are crushed around the world, not around the world, around the country. But I mean, around the world, but worse in many ways. It's worse in the United States. But then, of course, FAA and the flight controllers. This is the main example, the shining example on the hill of crushing workers, right? Because it was during the Reagan administration when flight controllers went on strike and Reagan stepped in and fired them all and replaced them with scabs. And it was kind of this pinnacle moment where the right wing of American politics, now both parties are right wing. I mean, back then they essentially were, but maybe it's gotten even worse, but said any workers who stand up can just be fired en masse by the administration and replaced. And we don't care about safety. We don't care about any of that. We're just gonna go ahead and fire them all. So, I don't know if you can pin directly this problem to that starting back in the Reagan administration, but of course CNN is not going to mention any of that, right?
I'm curious what percentage of the delays those 5,000 were, like how big a piece of that larger picture, and what was behind this?
In the 7-week period that we learned about in these new documents, hundreds of pages that we were able to get under the Freedom of Information Act, CNN has learned that was responsible for about 1 in every 10 flight delays nationwide. So this is so interesting because you have to think back to last year. It was really the summer of the air travel meltdown. 55,000 cancellations in total.
But here's another point that you will never hear from your mainstream media, but you also probably wouldn't hear from most independent outlets, is they will sit here and talk about flights a lot, right? How many news stories do you hear about flights or flight delays or baggage problems? Tons. How much do you hear about bus problems? How much do you hear about a Greyhound was running late? How much do you hear about a public transit system, a city bus? They just don't run on time. How much do you hear about subways? The subways aren't running on time. Fucking nothing. Nothing. Because a lot of our news is meant for the top 20 to 30% of America's wealthy. Now, I get that a lot of people are in the top 20 to 30%. I'm not saying these stories should ever be done. I'm not saying that most of you haven't taken a flight and seen a delay and been upset and been annoyed. I'm not saying it shouldn't be covered. But why do you never, ever hear something about public buses having issues, about public transportation having issues? Because most of this media is meant not for the poor, not for the people who have literally never taken a flight out of the country because they can't afford it, not for the people earning $7 an hour, taking the bus both to and from work. The news is largely not meant for them. Sure, it's meant a little to propagandize them, but it's largely meant for the top 20 to 30% of America, those who take flights regularly. And so I'm not saying this isn't a story or ignore it. I'm saying there's a reason that flights and flying gets covered a lot by our mainstream media and gets covered very little. I'm sorry, and public transportation gets covered very little by our mainstream media. There is a key reason to that, and it's because they're not. Not only is the news largely not meant for the poorest, the bottom 50% of America, but on top of that, it doesn't, they don't care. Their lives are not connected to the poor. They are, even the poorest CNN on camera person is not taking the bus to work. And a lot of the time I was working at Redacted Tonight, I didn't take the bus to work. So I'm not saying you can't, if you're not on the bus every day, you're a piece of shit. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, actually I took a bike to work. So I'm not, I was in a black car to work. No, actually, I was biking. I did take the subway some. But anyway, I'm just saying this news is not, they don't care or know much about the life of the poor in America. And this news is not meant for them. And that's why you see you see just endless coverage of flights and nothing else in terms of transportation. Someone saying, why didn't Lee take the bus? I just told you, I biked or I took the subway. I hope that's acceptable. I hope I passed whatever test you're trying to give me. Okay, so these last 10 to 15 minutes are just going to be for LeeCamp.net. I'm going to answer questions and comments from LeeCamp.net, my locals page. If you would like to be a part of that, you can join up over there at LeeCamp.net. I hope you will. It's the only way I'm able to keep doing my work here. But all right, so and because these comments are from throughout the hour, some of them go back to previous stories. But Patchouli Diver says Magic Johnson stole Steve Harvey's 2-hour YouTube advertisement style. I didn't know Steve Harvey did a 2-hour YouTube advertisement, but it doesn't surprise me. That sounds like Steve Harvey. Patchouli Diver says the devil is in the MSM mundane infotainment. Also said that. It's so true, because a lot of people don't realize that it's not just that they cover things wrong or that they spit out the administration's propaganda when it comes to war and things like that. It also is the fact that they are just muddying the waters. They just act like Magic Johnson speaking is a story. They act like the other nonsense. They cover the debt ceiling. I almost played a clip of them talking about the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is a great example. Nonstop coverage while real stories are happening around the world. The debt ceiling was fucking made up by our ruling elite so that they could have something to bicker over and destroy social services once every year. There's no reason for a debt ceiling. Yeah, there's a reason to not spend all of the made up dollars that we created, but the debt ceiling is just a made up issue to destroy social service spending. And our ruling elite bicker about that, and they fill our airwaves with it, and they act like it's the most important thing while people are struggling across the nation, while people are standing in line at the dollar store buying stuff made in China that's toxic. They're doing that while we're just talking about debt ceiling. They could have made up, Congress could have made up anything else to argue about once a year and destroy social services. They could have said, okay, there's a max number of allowable unicorn killings that can go on every year. The Democrats say it should be 100. The Republicans want 200, and they could bicker about it for 6 weeks, once a year, and then the compromise they come to is that they're getting rid of Medicare, but they're going to allow only 100 unicorns to be murdered each year. Like they could have made up something random and just had the same fight. Kill Me 77 says maybe the military should hire Magic Johnson. He can make the buildings disappear. I mean, he could at least he could probably sell their bullshit better. He also, I hear they need napkins. Maybe Magic Johnson could hook him up with some napkins. But Julie Diver says the Pentagon is the taxpayer's crackhead roommate. Hey, Pentagon, where's the TV? I don't know, man. It was there before I bought all this crack. Let's see. Dinner with Frank says, wasn't there a study some years ago that showed watching mainstream news doesn't make you uninformed, but actually makes you misinformed? Yeah, I do recall that study, but it also sounds, whether I remember it or not, it sounds absolutely accurate. It makes you actually believe wrong things. Oh, I do remember this study because they asked people, they basically found out people, like watch Fox News, and then they gave them a quiz on some of the facts of what's going on in the world. And the people who watch Fox News actually got things more wrong. We're more wrong than those who watch no news at all. Meaning it legit makes you dumber. I do remember that study because I made fun of it at the time. Not made fun of the study, made fun of the fact that legit people perform worse on tests about reality if they watch mainstream media, which I know doesn't surprise you, but it's like once that test is out there, why is anyone turning on? It's over. It's done. It's done. We've proven it scientifically. You're dumber having watched that media. Done. Moki says they're supposed to be building on the. So this is about NYC sinking. They're supposed to be building on the granite rock, not the swampy areas. But I guess greed is getting the better of them. They intend to monitor our food now too. You're better off watching no mainstream media than doing so. I'm assuming it's because of the propaganda, censoring, and mind-numbing idiocy that they push at the behest of the Pentagon, CIA, and White House that trickles down to all major mainstream media, aka propaganda multiplier. Yeah, that's what they are. That's a propaganda multiplier. And then let's see. Kill Me 77 says, that's why mainstream media gives stock prices when most Americans do not have stocks. Who cares if IBM is up 3 points when you're struggling? Yeah, it's another great point, is that they give stock prices because they are catering to the top 20, 30% of America. 80% of all stock is owned by the top 10% richest Americans. 80%. So every time you see a report on the stock market, that is really directed at the top 10% of wealthiest Americans. And yet they do it regularly, right? And there's a ticker often going at the bottom, also updating you on how IBM's doing. Then there's whole channels devoted to it as well, like CNBC and stuff like that. Arkeen says, thank you, Lee, for this class analysis of the news. They cover sports for the owners, the weather for the fossil fuel companies, disasters to keep people afraid, and trivia for comic relief. Thank you for this moment of clarity. Well said. I like that analysis. They cover sports for the sports owners, the weather for fossil fuel companies, disasters to keep people afraid. Yeah, it's well said. Kill Me 77 also says the debt ceiling problems are a pure example of the two Santa Claus theory in action. The two Santa Claus theory in action or inaction. I don't actually know the two Santa Claus theories. Is that something I'm supposed to know? Sorry, Kill Me. You beat me on that one. Moki says, look up the 18 points of the Committee of 300 agenda. Our real global leaders check the members too. Don't believe Wikipedia. These people are real, and WEF is part of them. Sad way, they're halfway through the nefarious list. Yeah, I mean, the WEF, I've covered them before. It's not that people should pay attention to them and the harm they do and what they're up to, and I've covered it before. But I don't like the channels and the independent media that have acted like, oh, it's all WEF and nothing else. I mean, a lot of the issues the WEF comes up with are already being implemented, were being implemented before the WEF even talked about them. So I feel like people should be furious about these things outside of just the World Economic Forum, which it frustrates me to see people just being like, if they just didn't meet at that place on the hill, then it would all be fine. And that I think is very incorrect. Let's see. Also, something from Robot Original Son says, I hope Rumble will snatch Lee for a daily show. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Robot. I guess saying that you'd like to see Rumble have a daily show for me as opposed to kind of my regular live streams that I do. But anyway, I really do appreciate that. I think those are the comments we have coming from locals. I hope you will all join up at leecamp.net, become a member there. Not only am I, and let's see if we have, I can take a couple of comments from the other thread. Nadia says WEF are evil. And Akira Cornell says the debt ceiling is a perpetual debt that we still pay. Granted, the QE billions, quantitative easing billions of dollars in treasuries a month that are deferred and the money that is pumped back into the system, but it's Doug says Gallup poll shows 58% of Americans own stock. Yes, but if you count the amount, so 80% of stock is owned by 10% of the population. So yes, I'm not saying there isn't someone with a little bit of money, but if you count the actual amount, 80% of all money in stocks is owned by the top 10% wealthiest Americans. So the rest of that percentage, making up the 58% of Americans who own stock, and most of those 58% are mutual funds and pensions. So it's not that the person, they don't actually know what company. They just look, they see what their pension is coming back with, and they don't actually know, like, oh, I have stock in IBM. How's that doing? Most people are not doing that. And then on top of that, I've covered this before about how the stock market is a fucking Ponzi scheme. It's the dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme. If you want to learn more about it, you can read the book, The Ponzi Factor. Most of that is, it used to be that you could get dividends. Dividends are still paid out, but it's small amounts done sparingly. It's not really most of the stock money that people make. Most people make money on stocks by buying the stock, holding it, and then selling it again to someone else who wants to pay more for that piece of paper, saying it is stock, which is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. Yes, I realize some people go, well, no, a Ponzi scheme involves lying. Well, yeah. What do you think Wall Street is? It's all lies and fraud, and some of them, every once in a while, they get revealed for their lies and fraud, and it all comes crashing down. But most of them don't. Most of them just can keep the lies going. And if you lie in a certain way, it's considered the acceptable form of corruption, and they just keep it going. So it's fine. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, every Friday is the media breakdown where I play our media and we tear it apart together. Thank you for joining me for that. But also, I do live streams Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So always 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. You can watch them afterwards. So if you miss it, you can come watch them afterwards at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's my main page. I've also been putting up a lot of clips so you can see the actual, topic rather than just the hour. So you can grab the topic and watch. If you don't have time for 10 minutes, go watch one of the topics I've thrown up there, rumble.com/Lee Camp. And I hope you will become a member at leecamp.net. That's how I support all of this, because most of my stuff is heavily suppressed, heavily censored. So thank you for making the most censored comedian in America actually still be able to have a show at all. And keep fighting.